Hello, everybody. This is Frank Thacker from the Daily Peacemaker, and welcome to the Daily Peacemaker. Today, we have two guests, I guess, our friends, George and Marlies Parrott. And what we're going to do is explore, or they're going to share with us some of their history. And as some of you may know, one of the goals of the Daily Peacemaker is, I'll actually read it to you, to encourage, inspire, and support individuals to use their skills and talents, time and energy, and however they see fit to help create a culture of peace. The other thing about the Daily Peacemaker is we are focused on grassroots people, ordinary, everyday people, doing what they can to create a culture of peace. So George and Marlies, you guys, in my opinion, are ordinary grassroots people. And for our listening audience, they're basically like I am, middle class, married, they've worked, they've raised a family. They have not been on major TV shows or starred in a movie or any of these things that our culture thinks makes people important. And so we're just ordinary people doing what we can to create a culture of peace. So what I would find helpful for you to share with the rest of us your experiences in doing what you do. And I would like to, I've known these folks for maybe 20 odd years now, I think. Is that correct? Yeah.
2004 we started on our present. Yeah, almost 20.
All right. So what I know of you, that one of the key things that seem to have happened is in 2004, and you can jump in anytime and correct me. I won't get mad or upset, or I won't mute you or anything like that. You decide to start a peace and justice, committee in your church. So what inspired you to do that?
Well, that came actually out of a trip I took to Washington, a peace rally in opposition to I guess it was the second Gulf War. We've had the second Gulf War. And I went there with Pat Vell and Maureen Logan on a bus. It's the first of that kind of thing that I'd done before. George has experience on this, but for me it was the first. And two things inspired me. There were about 500,000 people. It was so unbelievable, of all ages and walks of life. It wasn't your kind of hippie thing. I mean, there were people from all ages, families with children, and we marched, and there were speakers, but the loudspeaker would every so often say there's 500,000 in Tokyo, there are so many 100,000 in Germany, all over the country, so all over the world. And I thought then, well, they can't possibly go ahead with this war because obviously the world doesn't want it. And then the next day we went home, and there was hardly anything in the paper about it. People didn't, and when there were a few notes, they underreported the numbers. And it was then, and also we saw a group that particularly inspired us. That was a group of the Raging Grannies. There was a half a dozen women that were dressed in crazy old folks garb, and they were singing ordinary songs with different texts that had to do with the message of peace. So we decided then to start this Raging Granny group in Westerly, and also start a Peace and Justice Committee at Christ Church. Now,
Yeah,
those
so
that happened simultaneously, but okay. But the group at
what motivated you? What got your juices going?
The fact that we had this tremendous experience there in Washington, and people didn't know about it, and people didn't realize how much there was going on in terms of that movement and that force for peace. And so we decided what we would do would be mostly an educational thing. It wasn't so much about this particular war, but about the many different movements that inspired people to basically go a different way than the current culture. Ellen Dodge.
So let me ask you this. So
yeah.
So what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you had this experience with many people,
Right.
and you got moved to bring that back to the local community.
Yeah.
And kind of develop a group that could help your community do what they could to create the culture of peace, or work for peace, however you want to say it. Is that kind of the gist of it, that you wanted to bring it back locally? Yeah, and it was a specific event that sort of lit the fire under you, so to speak, this whole...
Yes and no. I mean, it was that event, but I think from my own background, I've had a history of knowing, I guess, that war is not the answer. And that has to do with growing up in Germany and the
Post-war.
post-war, yeah. So that all that was, already in my soul.
Yeah, but
and I hadn't really acted on it in a
good.
And
yeah. And that's key. That's a key thing, I think, that we want to get across to other people, that at some point, given whatever your backgrounds might be, at some point, and people listening right now might be thinking about something that they feel real strongly about, that they want to do. And until they actually do it, till they get enough energy to do it, they'll just be thinking about it. So what I hear you saying is that this specific event, and it could be any event in anybody's personal, but you had that history and stuff spinning around, and at some point, this particular event moved you to actually do something concrete in your own community. And that's what we're hoping other people will begin to do in their own community. Because my sense is there's a lot of people like you, and both of us, ordinary people that have a lot of gifts and talents, and there's something that some reason why they can't quite take that step into creating something in their local community.
Well, what I should say, though, it's it really very soon we had other people with us, and I think the inspiration that comes from a group of people sharing about this is huge, because we also got involved with St. Francis House, and where we met Father Emmett. That's a whole other story, but this was a person who had reflected on this deeply in his life, and we learned a lot from there. We learned a lot from somebody named Frank Thacker and his wife.
Well, I think that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point that you make, because to have outside forces or friends that might be urging you to do something. So if someone's sitting out there listening to us and they're thinking about doing something, you know, starting a Peace and Justice Committee or doing an organization around environmental stuff or whatever, it's good for them to maybe bounce some of those ideas off other people, talk to other people that are doing something similar, because that also will help them to get started. You know? So let me, I'd like to stay with the Peace and Justice Committee that you started, because the main reason, and we'll hopefully get into this a little bit, all the good things that have sprung from that, you know. So when you started it up, did you run into stumbling blocks from so you're going to set it up as Peace and Justice from the local church that you're in, the Episcopal Church. Did you get support there, or were there difficulties you ran into from wherever?
Yeah, maybe George can add to this.
There was not too much support from the top, so to speak, but they were afraid that we were going to become some political mouthpiece for a particular party or a philosophy, etc. And it took a lot of convincing that we wanted to be on the educational level. We just wanted to stick with peace principles, whether it was from Martin Luther King or Gandhi or elsewhere. And so that took a while for some convincing. But the thing that was good about the church is they let us continue to grow there, and they gave us some financial support over time for speakers, for educational series that we conducted. So we had quite a few speakers that came, etc. But the biggest thing was that we had to really fight to demonstrate that we weren't a political party.
Yeah. And that is, I hear what you're saying, and that doesn't, you know, if someone's sitting out there and they want to get involved in working for a certain political leader that has inspired them, that's fine also, you know, but I hear what you're saying. So that's another good piece, that if you're going to try to start up something, be aware of where you can get support and where you might not get support.
We also had at the time, I have to say, Mary Ellen Dolan was one of our priests, and she was part of the group. In fact, we met at her office quite a while. So it helped to have somebody really supportive of that.
Yeah, someone that's got some power. And so that's another good point. So if someone is thinking about starting up a group or even joining a group, you know, it's the main thing that I hear from you people is that you had been thinking about this and through years and years, and had this event that really inspired you, plus talking to other people. And I mean, what you did was a big step. It was a very concrete, specific step that you took. And so that's an important thing for people to know, you know, when they feel that inspiration to keep pursuing it, you know, and talking to other people, and at some point taking that step. The other thing that I want to mention, so I was thinking about this. So in 2004, you started this group up. And since then, what has come out of that? There's been like the International Cities of Peace. We became an International Cities of Peace. You have had all kinds of pro-peace demonstrations in downtown. You've got the Raging Grannies. You've got
Peace poll, the committee, the peace poll. Yeah, I'm just.
peace polls, yeah,
And the speaker series that we've had at church.
Yep, the speaker series, the International Day of Peace. Now there's a celebration in town every year on that.
Yes.
There's the Martin Luther King annual reading that's done every year.
Right, that's become a standard, yeah.
At and I forget what the Environmental Day is, but there's on that worldwide, and I don't know what the Environmental Day, but there's something that the town does then. There's the anti-race, sort of the diversity committee that's been set up, which is really interesting because they are now a part of the town council. They are a committee on the town council. So from this little step that, maybe it wasn't a little, but from this step you took in 2004 to set up this committee, all this stuff has grown from that, really, you know?
Well, I would say, I don't want to think it's all the credit is ours. I think there are different movements that spring up at different times. And the good thing is we connect with each other and we
Network.
support each other. I think even now our Peace and Justice, first of all, it's not Christ Church alone anymore.
Yeah.
The majority of the members are from other persuasions, or and so we call ourselves Westerly Area Peace and Justice. And I think at this point it has become a network of people who are each involved in their own projects, and some of them we do together, but we're certainly not doing everything together. We just report back to each other and strengthen each other in what we do. That's how I think it has evolved. Would you agree to that?
Yes, but my point is, I'm trying to see that one could say that none of this stuff would have happened
Maybe not.
if you two hadn't started the Peace and Justice.
I don't know. Maybe
I'm going to say that. I'm going to, based on the facts, you started this group, and out of that group has mushroom grown all these different things that maybe are not, well, most of the things that have happened, I would say from my experience, I could trace back to the Peace and Justice group that you started in 2004. So the not that you take credit for that, but more the fact what I'm trying to get at is someone could start something that seems very small to them, and boom, 10, 15 years later, it could lead to many things.
There's a good example for this. That people we get on a local level, we got known at this, and so people will call us. The other day, somebody called us from church who I've actually very little contact with otherwise, and asked us to put these backpacks together to help children in the Ukraine. And now it was almost said, why me? And she said, well, you guys are doing that sort of thing. And we are known. Yeah. So it does become public knowledge that we support.
Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to get across to other people is that we're talking about grassroots people doing what they can to create a culture of peace. And they may feel, and you hear people say this all the time, well, I can't do anything, what can I do? I'm just one person.
Yeah, right.
And so they can do a lot. If they take that first step, it can lead to a lot of stuff springing up from that. And that's what we're looking to inspire people to do, you know. But you look like you want to say something there, Eileen.
Yeah, I just want to make a point about that. So originally, some people would say, what's the result of all of this? Why are you doing all of this? And I realized that I was being selfish. I was doing it for myself. Something inspired me to go outside of myself and act.
Mhm.
And then it didn't become important that I had 1,000 people with me or what have you. It was more important that I was motivated to reach out and do something myself. And out of that, you all of a sudden you look around and you meet this one and that one, that. So all of these individuals together add up to a big quantity, if you will. So we don't have to worry about that. You got to have all kinds of people. What matters is, where are you at spiritually? Where are you at morally? And these different kinds of issues. And if if we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, because I think a lot of people feel sort of that same way, in the sense of, I can't do anything, I'm one person. And, if they take that one step, who knows what will happen, even if it's motivated by them wanting to feel good about doing something. That's an okay, because I think once you do that, it begins to flow.
Yeah, that's okay.
And the other thing that seems to happen with these little movements and stuff, like you were alluding to before, people get to know you, they get involved in stuff because they might know you, and that, so that whole system that grows, and how people become supportive of each other. So
just want to say one more thing about being active. A lot of people come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm glad you're doing this." And I think what I hear them saying is, "I'm not ready to step out publicly, but you're speaking for me." So
we are not, we choose not to do certain things. I mean, we have been to different protests and gatherings, but I would personally not do things that land me in jail.
But that's your choice. Other people might.
And other people might, and they have said to me, I've talked with like Jane Johnson, and she say, we know that you support us, so we go this step further and do an action that land me in, and righteously against the law type of thing. They need our support. So there are different levels of getting involved.
That's a good point. And those people, George, that come up to you and sort of thank you for doing something, they might just be a step away from also joining. So there's a lot of good stuff there. I'm just looking at the time. I don't like these to go too long, but we could ramble on. But maybe I should bring one last question quick. What along the way have, I presume, you get discouraged and stuff, and then what if that happens? What do you do? Do you sometimes feel like, oh, what's it worth, or do you have that experience?
Yeah, the discouragement comes from, like that first time, there are forces that are so strong and so powerful, like right now, the war in the Ukraine. You say to yourself, what good does all this peace stuff do if with the amount of weapons and energy that goes around solving problems by force and by battles, and it seems like people never learn that doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, how do you overcome that? How do you get past that discouragement?
I just want to make a few comments about that. Often my enthusiasm flags. Okay, I kind of flatline. But I like to think I'm a spiritual person, and I try to find some solace in poetry or art or what have you. And then I find I can get back on my feet. In the end, I have to say to myself, I'm doing this for myself. It's my conscience is asking me to be active and do something, and to not worry about how many people are going to be with me or what the outcomes are going to be.
Yeah.
It's this idea of a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You just got to keep moving.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's sort of like honoring your own integrity.
Exactly.
Even in the dark moments, it's okay to go through those discouraging points. And the thing is to not get stuck there. And so you can do it through prayer, talking to friends, poetry, just reflecting on your own integrity and your desire to do something good. So, all right. I want to thank you for being with us today. And I usually try to end with a short Indigenous prayer. And this one is real short. It's a soup. And so when I get done with this, we'll kind of stop. But if you guys could stay around, okay? With me? All right. So the prayer is very, fill us with the light. Give us the strength to understand and the eyes to see. Teach us to walk the soft earth as relatives to all that live. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, thank you very much, George and Marlies. Peace to all. And we will see what we'll do next time around. Great.
Thank you, Frank. You
Okay.
honor